Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please stand for the national anthem. Thank you. You may be seated. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to extend my apologies for the late start this morning. We were waiting on the Minister of Education to arrive, but we will proceed with this morning's event. Before this morning, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Ms. Noriko Oshima, Secretary and Director of Economic Cooperation, Japan Embassy of Japan. Also, Mr. Mitsuyoshi Kawasaki, Resident Rep JICA, Jamaica. Dr. Ricardo Perez Cuevas, Senior Health Specialist at the Inter-American Development Bank in the country office. Dr. Joan Reed, President of JADE and Directors and Staff of JADE. The team of consultants, intervention consultants, headed by Dr. Ken Oit, and project consultants, special guests, members of staff, parents, and friends, welcome this morning. The hosting of this event is significant for two main reasons. The month of March is celebrated as Intellectual Disability Month globally. JADE implements a number of activities aimed at increasing the awareness of persons with intellectual disabilities, the barriers they face, as well as promoting their inclusion in all facets of community living. We normally do this in awareness of Intellectual Disability Month. Finally, we are at the point of the actual implementation of this intervention, which is why we're here today, of persons with intellectual disability, of the innovative approaches to children with intellectual disability project. One of the unique features of this project is that parents themselves will be actively engaged in supporting their children through the intervention, the life of the intervention. JADE was established by a parent, and so capacity building of parents is our priority. It's paramount to what we do here at JADE. I would like to remove myself, I contain my excitement, and invite Dr. Joan Reed to bring official welcome to all guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ferguson, Miss Noriko Oshima, First Secretary, Embassy of Japan, Mr. Mitsuyoshi Kawasika, Japan International Corporation, Dr. Ricardo Cuevas, Office of IDB Jamaica, Professor Hoyt, Medgar Evers College, Dr. Michelle Meredith, Head of the Special Education Department, Michael Teachers College, other team members, specially invited guests, colleague, staff members. Good morning. It is really my pleasure to welcome you to JADE and this partnership endeavor this morning. Today marks the beginning of the start of phase 2 of the intervention with children and their parents in the innovative approaches to the development of children with intellectual disabilities. We welcome you today and appreciate this partnership. It is especially heartening that parents are working alongside and somebody saw the need to include the parents. I am heartened by that. And so I want to thank you on behalf of the Board of Management of the Jamaica Association of Intellectual Disabilities, staff members, teachers, parents, and friends. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Reed, for that welcome. I would like to also welcome Ms. Noriko Oshima, First Secretary and Director of Economic Cooperation, Embassy of Japan, to bring greetings.
The Honorable Fairbairn Williams, MP, Minister of Education and Youth, Ministry of Education, Youth, but I'm not sure she's not present yet, but I hope she will come soon. Dr. John Reid, President, Jamaican Association on Intellectual Disabilities. Dr. Ricardo Perez Cuevas, a senior health specialist in the country Jamaica office for Mr. Tariq Ali, country representative in Jamaica, Inter-American Development Bank. Delegates from the Ministry of Education and Youth, officials from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mrs. Claudia Chambers Johnson, project coordinator, Dr. Ken White, his special intervention description today from Medgar Evers College, New York. Parents, children, all other stakeholders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you and your warm welcome. Today, Friday, March 3rd, 2023, it's my great pleasure to attend and bring greetings at this Neuroplasticity Project implementation event to mark the beginning of intervention with children under the Japan-funded IDB initiative known innovative approaches for the development of children with intellectual disabilities. through the Japan Special Fund Poverty Reduction Program, we call JPO, a grant was provided in the amount of 600,000 United States dollars, or approximately 87 million Jamaican dollars, following the project agreement between JADE and IDB in February 2020. I commend the efforts of JADE, the IDB, and other key stakeholders from the government of Jamaica for working hard to execute this project with a view to addressing the social and health needs of children with developmental disabilities and their families. Furthermore, children with intellectual disabilities and their parents will benefit from innovative brain-based intervention approaches to support their well-being. The cooperation between Japan and JADE is long-term. I would like to commend Mrs. Marilyn McCoy, Executive Director JADE, in this occasion, because she visited Japan under JICA's program and studies the policy framework for dealing with disability in Japan. Based on her experience, I believe that this project also will have an impact on Jamaican society. On a continuous basis, JICA has assigned volunteers to JADE. In fact, the synergy between the JICA and JADE through volunteer placements have enabled children at JADE to create their own brand of jewelry made from coffee beans called tubes. I think my pronunciation is right. On top of this, the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, is a valuable international development partner to Jamaica and the Caribbean. And likewise, we feel very much honored to work together and be proactively engaged in Jamaica's development endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope that this Japan IDB intervention will yield fruitful and innovative approaches. It will ultimately pave the way for
I would like to now welcome Mr. Ricardo Perez Cuevas from the IDB Bank to bring remarks.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. Ms. Noriko Oshima, First Secretary and Director of Economic Cooperation of the Embassy of Japan, Dr. Joan Reid, President of the Jamaican Association on Intellectual Disabilities, ladies and gentlemen, media and other stakeholders. I'm very grateful to be here. I'm happy to participate in this particular occasion. On behalf of Mr. Tariq Ali, Country Office Representative, and Ms. Charmaine Edmondson, team leader of this project on the bank side, I want to congratulate JADE for launching this project covering critical unmet needs for children with intellectual disabilities and his families. I want to thank the Japan Special Fund Poverty Reduction Program for its generosity in providing the financial resources for this vital project. The Poverty Reduction Program supports well-targeted poverty reduction and social development activities that respond directly to the needs of socially and economically disadvantaged people, such as children with intellectual disability and their families. This project is not isolated. The IDB is making substantial efforts to promote the social and economic inclusion of people living with disability through several strategic initiatives in line with the Conventions of Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Just let me give you one figure that is quite important. 12% of the people live with some sort of disability. So that's a huge number, considering, just to make a reference, that in this country, 12% of people have diabetes. So that's the size of the problem. That's a large problem. So that keeps us busy developing good policies, plans, and programs to satisfy their unmet needs. The lines of action of the IDB include support for inclusive education, such as this project, accessible infrastructure, and public services. Also, certification of disability and public services and interoperability of information systems. The bank is also working in digitalizing the healthcare sector in Jamaica. Let me mention just a brief story that Charmaine has been a tireless advocate for improving the care of children with intellectual disability. Charmaine and I visited Ms. McCoy several times, 3 years ago, actually, to discuss the best approach and learn and delineate a suitable project for Jade in partnership with the bank. So getting to this point has been a long and challenging journey. The COVID pandemic, the challenges to find a suitable consultant to develop the initiative has been an important achievement. So Mrs. McCoy and her team, set the groundwork for the intervention, and I'm sure that Jade will succeed in helping children lead happy, healthy, and fulfilling lives. From a social perspective, children with ID face fundamental challenges. Their parents often and support services, adding to the severe financial, logistical, and emotional challenges of raising a child with a special children will help them overcome these challenges and reach their full potential. This technical cooperation has 3 core components. First was the design of the intervention. The second is the implementation of the intervention. We are in this point, so we are in a breaking point. This is the kickoff of the intervention. So this intervention comprised children and their families. We were insisting, and Ms. McCoy agreed and the team agreed that families are quite an important part of the treatment of these children. Next is to evaluate the intervention and analyze its potential to scale up the intervention to a national program and be part of the national policies. Finally, I want to mention that we are not alone in this initiative. Jamaica is joining a group of countries that are implementing neuroplasticity interventions for this type of children. These initiatives are taking place in Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico, among other countries. So we will contribute to the evidence of the interventions. And the lessons learned from this project will also be relevant contribution to other Latin American and Caribbean countries. We are convinced that this project will succeed in providing direct support to children with intellectual disabilities and their families through testing and effective neuroplasticity intervention. And we hope that the project will be expanded and become an essential contribution to the national policies and programs for children with special needs. Congratulations again, and please count on IDB support for this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Cuevas. I would like to now invite Mrs. Cordia Chambers, Project Coordinator for the project. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Okay, right. I just want to welcome everyone again. And as Dr. Cuevas said, it's a very important time in this project. We are moving forward. And I must thank the donors, the Japan Special Fund for Poverty Reduction, and this fund is being administered by the Inter-American Development Bank. Now, we have gone through quite an extensive session, or I would say segment of the program. So phase one, which was the design phase, was a really robust phase of the program. And I'll give you just a brief description of what that looks like. So for phase one of the program, what we did, we didn't just do the systematic literature review. And what does this entail? The systematic literature review, we had a research consultant on board that did a comprehensive analysis of what exists in other jurisdictions. And from that, we got some recommendations that we took to move forward. Out of those recommendations, so we looked at how neuroplasticity-based intervention is being used within families, how it's used within the schools, and from there, we have our design team of consultants that took that information, and what they did with that information was to do further assessments. So the process is that within JADE, we have our placement and assessment services where we assess the children initially. From there, based on the recommendations from the literature review, the team conducted a series of additional assessments, and this went on for quite some time. The assessment wasn't only with the children, but it included their parents and caregivers. So from there, what happened was that the children were now classified into 3 main categories because this project is taking on an individualized approach. So it's not a broad brush approach where one size fits all, right? From the 3 categories, and when Dr. Hoyt comes, he will further explain. He's a neuroscientist, right? He will give you all the nice, juicy explanation of all of these things that I'm going to say now. So we have 3 classifications: nonverbal, verbal ready, and fully verbal. And from these 3 categories, what happened from there was that they were further broken down into 9 subcategories. And you will hear more about these, right? Apart from the assessment with the children, we did some assessment with the parents to help them to understand how to deal with their children with various types of disabilities. We've had a workshop with parents helping them with the sleep pattern of their children. Apart from just the session with the sleep pattern, we have been helping the parents with various coping mechanisms, and throughout the project we'll be doing a lot more of that with the parents. We'll be providing the parents with various resources, and then the other side of it, so we look at the parents, the children, and then the teachers. So we have been conducting a series of training and workshops with the teachers, but before we could do the workshop with the teachers, what we did, we conducted a survey to understand where the teachers were at, what are the resources they have access to, and how comfortable they were with using the technology. So we'll be providing the physical resources, the play therapy, we'll be providing the educational side of it, and then they'll also be getting the technological side of it. So with all of that, we have onboarded an IT consultant who has gone through the process of gathering the requirements, and then from there, we'll be doing the relevant analyses and building out or adopting a system where the parents, teachers, and children will be accessing and integrating the program. So the program is a holistic neuroplasticity-based program that includes the teachers, the parents, and the children. And all of that will be assessed. We'll be evaluating, monitoring and evaluating. So we have our monitoring and evaluation consultant here. And from there, we'll be doing the feasibility study to see what works, what didn't work, and how the program can be scaled up, right? And with that, I'll end there. So before I end, I just want to say that we have over 70 children in the pilot. We started off with 60, but then we did some assessment and realized that we could expand it to a little over the 60. We have 9 locations that covers 2 schools. So we have the Randolph Lopez School of Hope, and we have the Windsor School for Special Education. And we have those principals here with us today. Some of the teachers, some of the parents, and some of the children are here with us today. We also have a WhatsApp group with all the parents in it. Some of them are watching. Hi, my parents. Some of them are watching live, as this session is being live streamed. And we look forward to going into the schools, into the homes. Going into the homes, I also see 3 or 4 parent mentors here. So the parents will be supported fully. They won't be left alone. We will have persons holding their hands throughout the process. That's it in a nutshell, but I believe that this is a great initiative for Jamaica, especially this month that we're rolling out the implementation, and this month is being observed as the month for intellectual disability. And I'll end there. Thank you all, and I hope that you enjoy what's next to come. All right? I'll be around if you have any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you for that overview, Mrs. Chambers. And as we approach phase 2 of the intervention implementation, I would like to invite Dr. Ken Oit, who is the intervention design consultant, and he will be giving you a description of the intervention as well as providing you with some demonstration of what the intervention will look like. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here this morning, and I'm not the only one. I know everyone here is really excited. I think this is the perfect opportunity it's now March 3rd, at the beginning of International Disability Month, for us to begin talking further about where this project is going, what we've done, and what we see for the future. You can go ahead. I'm going to have one slide. I was told not to get too science-y and go crazy, so I put one slide, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've done and some of the things that we're doing, the intervention components, the different groups of children, and then we're going to have a demonstration by several of our teachers as I sort of walk you through what we did in our training yesterday and some of the things that we'll be doing in our intervention. Before I get started, I would be remiss not to thank everyone here, because everyone here is a critical part of this intervention project, from the funders in the Japan Fund, from Jade and Ms. Reed, who has really got this going, to everyone who I've been in continuous contact with from over a year ago. This project is really moving in a wonderful direction, and we're really excited. So as was mentioned before, this intervention is going to take a 3-pronged approach, and that in and of itself is novel. The fact that not only are we interested in working with the children, but we are going to work with families and teachers as well. So that in and of itself is novel, it's new, it's innovative. But we've gone way beyond just that in thinking about how we can best serve the children. So in addition to having sort of the child going through these interventions, and in addition to supporting the teachers and parents, and not just parents, but the caregivers of those children, we really focused on the neuroscience literature that is out there, that's present, that talks about how you can ensure that you are changing the brain. And I think what's really important for everyone to understand, the people in this room, the children, the parents, the families, that in spite of any disability that a child has been diagnosed with, their brain can change. It's been shown over and over again that the brains can change and the brains can learn. And it is our job to ensure that we have these children reach their optimal level of performance, and as a result, their optimal level in life. And I think this intervention is really getting us going in the right direction. So just to give you a quick definition of what neuroplasticity is, because it's a term that I use a lot as a part of this intervention, and it's a term that everyone should sort of be familiar with. The official definition is it's that neuroplasticity is defined as the brain's ability to form and recognize synaptic connections in response to learning, experience, or following injury. Essentially what that means is that the brain is able to change, and it organizes itself based on the information that it's getting. And we have to now take the information that we're trying to get to our children with an intellectual disability and make sure that we give it to them in a way that their brains can take, right? Their brains are not the same as every other child. And then thinking about that, and I'll get to the different groups that we have, but another innovation with this project is we don't just take the children and group them based on IQ, or we don't just take the children and base them on their diagnosis. We looked a lot deeper. We looked at their ability to communicate. We looked at their expressive and receptive language. We looked at attentional concerns. We looked at literacy. We looked at academic functioning. And then we not only did that, but we did assessments with the parents and the families. We also talked to the schools and spoke with the schools to find out what resources were available, because we wanted to make sure that this intervention was designed in a way that we could scale up in the future. It's important to understand that with this principle of neuroplasticity, the brains of children are especially malleable. So it's important that we begin these interventions during childhood. And the age range that we have is really a critical period for learning and development. So the children that we're going to be working with are really, we're going to be getting to them at a critical part in their development. Because beyond 10, 11 years old, although the brain can continue to change, it's a lot harder to make those changes. And so we're excited that we're working with children who haven't reached that critical point of development where it's going to be much harder to change their brains. These children are still like a sponge and still absorbing and soaking up information just like that, in a way that you and I wish we could, because we're now older and our brains don't function quite the same way anymore. The neuroplasticity principles that we're taking into account in the development of this intervention include specificity, being really specific. This isn't just like a general intervention where we're just picking and choosing a whole bunch of different things. We're very specific in the items that we're choosing. Motivation. The children need to be motivated. A key principle in neuroplasticity and brain development is that the brain learns best when it's motivated. We all learn best when we're motivated. We've probably all been in a room where someone is speaking and we have no interest in what's going on. We don't learn anything because we're not motivated to learn. So we have to take into account what motivates the children we're working with. What are their interests? What is their culture? What are they going to be excited about? It takes into account saliency, takes into account repetition, and it takes into account intensity. And so just to sort of sum those things up, repetition is an important part of neural development. Things have to be repeated over and over and over again until those pathways are formed in the brain. And as things are repeated over and over again, it's important to see what progress has been made and then slowly move forward so that we can add just one more layer on top of what's already been learned. But repetition is key. So we'll be using repetition. Intensity. How long these sessions go. Will it be 2 minutes? Will it be 5 minutes? Will it be 10 minutes? A lot of that is dependent on the functioning level of the child. Again, yet another innovation to this intervention, the idea that we're looking at where these children are and bringing the intervention to them, as opposed to just taking a cookie-cutter intervention and saying, here, everyone in this group is going to do the same thing. And so the components of the intervention, which are varied, and some of the products are displayed over on this table here that are more manipulative and interactive. There's a big technology component that will be administered on a tablet device that's going to be given to every child that's part of this project. It's a tablet that will be used in school and at home, not only with the teachers, but also with the families at home, because as was mentioned a few times up here, the parents are a really important piece to development. And we really feel that in order for the children to flourish to their maximum ability is to have the parents heavily involved and have them being able to administer components of this intervention at home. So we have the children at school, we have the children at home, and we have the teachers and parents working in a symbiotic relationship where they're sort of doing the same sorts of things. The tablet and the one that the child will be bringing back and forth from home to school will have the same programs on it. They'll be using the same programs at home and at school. The children, the parents, and the teachers will have access to the performance. They'll have access to the progress. They'll have access to what's going on so that they can all see. In addition to that, we'll be giving workshops to the teachers and the parents to make sure that everyone's on the same page as far as what do you do when a child has a meltdown? Or what do you do when it's not going the way that it's supposed to go? Or how do you prompt and scaffold and support children as they progress through the levels of this intervention? So I say all of that to say this intervention was really well thought out. I'm grateful to my team, Dr. Wright and Dr. Meredith, who are seated to my right, because they are not only an integral part of this project, but they're also my mentors. And I think they added quite a bit. Their connection to the island of Jamaica, I think that was a really important component of this intervention. Dr. Wright, family, entire family from Jamaica. She's been here over 200 times. She's been in Jamaica actually since I don't know when. I haven't seen her in months. She's been down in Jamaica, and Dr. Meredith of the Mico University is based here in Jamaica and is heavily rooted in child development and working with children here in Jamaica. So having that component is really critical as well, because oftentimes what happens is you have these interventions that are designed by people who are not familiar with the children who will be receiving the intervention, and they don't work. So it's really important to have this connection to the children who are going to be receiving the intervention. So with that being said, the children were assigned to 9 different groups based on their preliminary assessments. And so we came and we did assessments on about 60 children. We have to do assessments on a few more children who've been added because, as Ms. Chambers mentioned, we were able to expand the project. And there were a few children who have dropped out that we have to reassess new children. Essentially, these 9 groups are broken down by verbal ability. So you have children who are nonverbal. You have children who are verbal ready, and what that means is that they've demonstrated that they have the beginnings of language and the ability to communicate using language, and they're ready to progress, but they're not quite there yet. And then finally, you have the fully verbal group, the children who are fully verbal, who use their words to communicate full sentences, and they can communicate their thoughts and ideas, but they still need additional support in other areas. So those are the 3 verbal groups that we started from. And then from there, we looked at their symptomology, what their diagnoses were, and not just that, but what is the predominant concern with the child? So many of the children have been diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum. So we say, okay, we have a group of children who they may have multiple disorders, but it seems like the symptoms and the features that they're demonstrating from their autism is primary and needs to be addressed first and foremost. So we take them and we have their verbal ability. So we have nonverbal autism is sort of one group. And then you look at another group of children who, when we came down, we saw, and based on the data from JADE assessments, we saw that the attention piece was really, really critical. And that these children, even if they had different diagnoses, no matter what their diagnosis was, it was their attention and their ability to focus on a task which was holding them up. And so they're their own group. And then we have a third group, which is sort of behavioral/other children who not quite attentional issues, not quite autistic symptoms, but they have a broad array of other areas where they struggle and areas that are holding them up from progressing. And so we have essentially 9 groups, 3 in each of the verbal categories: nonverbal, verbal ready, and fully verbal. Once we assign them to that group, we can now customize the assessments for each of those 9 groups. So this is, first of all, let me backtrack. That is yet another innovation. The fact that we have all of these different groups within a larger group categorized as having an intellectual disability. Typically in research, you'll see groups categorized by IQ. You may say, okay, IQ range, 70 to 80 is one group, 60 to 70 is another group, so forth and so on. You may have other studies that look at groups and say, well, they have a diagnosis of autism, they have a diagnosis of ADHD, they have a diagnosis of emotional behavior disturbance. and they're your groups. But this digs a little bit deeper. It digs beyond just the IQ score, it digs beyond just the diagnosis, it digs beyond all of that, and it really gets to what are the core symptoms that are holding these children back from development. So an important component, before I talk about the intervention and then have our teachers come up here and demonstrate, an important part of this intervention is what we're doing with the parents. So I just want to briefly discuss what we're doing with the parents, we'll be doing with the parents and the teachers as well. So we'll be continuing to have these workshops on sleep and introducing how parents can give their children healthy sleep habits. One of the major issues with intellectual disability and developmental disabilities in general are the children's sleep patterns and children not getting enough sleep. And when you control for the amount of sleep and ensure that children are getting the correct amount of sleep, you see oftentimes that the symptoms of whatever developmental disability they've been diagnosed with lessen. And you see a little bit less of that. So we want to make sure that children are getting enough sleep, and one of the main features of our parent workshops are dealing with that sleep component, because parents self-reported when we work with them that they had trouble with the sleep schedules, and it's very inconsistent from household to household getting their children to sleep, and so that's an important component. Another important component to these parent workshops and teacher workshops, and to make sure is everyone is on the same page as far as how you're prompting and supporting a child when they don't know how to do something, or when they don't have the answer for something, and making sure that everyone is sort of on the same page using similar strategies at home and at school so that they begin to reinforce one another, that what's being done in school, in the classroom, as far as support, is also being done at home. In addition, we'll be offering workshops on behavior management, emotion expression, as well as strategies in applied behavior analysis, or ABA, right? So parents and teachers will be a part of these workshops, and they'll be doing the same things at home and at school, which is great. In addition to using the apps on the tablet that I'm gonna get to sort of at the very end of this. So thinking about this intervention and what it looks like, it's multimodal and it's active. Children, and one of the questions that came up in our meeting with teachers yesterday was, wait a minute, you're going to give us all of these great materials. Do we have to figure out and plan our day out and decide how we're going to use them? And the answer is no. So we give the teachers a specific protocol for each child within their group, and we tell them exactly what needs to be done with the materials. So they won't just get a beautiful box of materials, but they'll get a set of instructions for each of the children to say, okay, this needs to be implemented for 5 minutes a day, 3 days a week. And they know exactly what they have to do. They know how to support the children if they struggle. They get an entire script of what they need to do and how they need to work with the children. Much of it will allow the child to work on their own, because we have to realize that the teachers do have to address the entire class many times, and you can't spend the entire day with just one child. So there are components where a teacher will work one-on-one. There are components where multiple children will work together, and there are components where a child will be able to work by him or herself. So the teachers will get a script of exactly what they need to do with each one of these products. What's unique about this is that not every child will receive the same manipulative or the same computer app. It's, again, based on what we see in their profile, based on what group they're a part of. Very innovative. In addition, we'll be using other strategies on the computer apps. So the computer apps that, unfortunately, we were not able to connect the tablet to the screen so that I could demonstrate exactly what some of those things look like. I do have a video that I'll show at the end of what this kind of looks like, but the apps are great because they're able to collect all of the data on what the child is doing. The correct answers, the mistakes that they're making, what types of mistakes they're making, how often they're completing a task, and it gathers all of that automatically. What's also really incredible about the apps that we're using is that they are also designed in a way in which they control automatically the difficulty. If a child seems to be struggling, they'll make it a little bit easier. If the child is doing well, it will naturally progress and make it more and more advanced as they show through repetition that they can do more and more difficult items. All of this is automated and the data is generated without teachers or parents having to do anything. The only thing that will be done on a daily basis is teachers and parents will sort of go online and indicate in a short survey of what they did and how it went. How much time did you spend on this particular task? How'd it go? And it should take about 5 minutes for them to fill out. So it's not terribly time consuming as far as monitoring that. And one of the important features of this is monitoring how effective we are in implementing it. So it will give us the ability to see on a daily basis, are things being implemented appropriately and correctly? We'll be able to, because we have consultant based here in Jamaica, and because I'll be traveling back and forth in Jamaica, and we have lots of people involved, we'll be able to stop in and check in and make sure that questions are being answered, to make sure that things are being administered properly, and ensuring that this progresses in the way that it's supposed to. So what I want to do now is, I want to call my teachers up to the front. After. I want to call my teachers up to the front, and they're going to demonstrate just a little bit of what this will look like. Because it's one thing to stand up here and tell you, okay, well, this is what we're going to do, and this is how it sounds, but you need to sort of see what that's going to look like. And so they're going to come, they're going to bring a table right here, and we're going to have them do a role play, demonstrating how some of these things will take place. And as they go through the role play, I'll sort of interrupt them and explain what's going on for you, so that you can see and hear firsthand exactly what's going on and what it is that you're seeing. Is there a way to move the mic so that they can hear them? So just to set the stage for you of exactly what it is that you're going to see, is we're going to show very quickly what happens as the child enters the classroom at the beginning of the day, and then I'll explain what just happened to you.
Okay, Nadinola, you may sit right here, please. Right here, right here. Thank you. And come, Sharika, you may sit right here. Oh no, Nadinola. Oh my, all right, I'm gonna make you have this wiggle feet here. Calm down, Nadinola, here you go. You put your feet right here. Here you go, lovely, wonderful. All right.
All right, Sharika, we have a box of toys here. You're going to choose which one you want to play with today, or which one you're going to have in your hand today. So you choose a little ball today. All right, so that's yours. So when you're ready, you're going to put it back in the box. All right?
All right, so we'll take a quick little break from their wonderful acting skill, and I'll sort of explain exactly what's going on. So we have one of our students who was given a weighted vest. So I don't know if you're familiar with a weighted vest at all, but a weighted vest is a really, really great tool that's oftentimes used with children with sensory concerns, children who have a really hard time with the sensory environment, who have a hard time sitting still, who just get up and need to run around, right? It's like, and I was explaining to the teachers yesterday, it's equivalent to giving a child a hug or soothing them. We all have seen a child who is often rambunctious and they can't sit still, or they're having a meltdown, and all they need is to be held. And it helps calm them down and helps to soothe them. Well, there are children who will be participating in this study who need that. Unfortunately, we can't give them a hug all day long. So that weighted vest will be given to the student at the beginning of the day, and they'll be given the opportunity to have that throughout the day, and will help them stay calm and relaxed throughout the day. So another innovative and unique piece of this intervention is that it's not just about the intervention. It's ensuring that the children are in the best position to show that the intervention actually works. So if this child is able to have this weighted vest and is able to soothe them throughout the day and help them feel a little bit better, they'll be able to focus, right? And this is research-based. It's proven to increase focus, increase attention, increase time on task, increase time in seat. So it's a very effective tool. It's not for every child. Every child does not need a weighted vest, but it will be issued only to the children who need that. This same child, as she sat down, you may have noticed that she began to kick her feet and kick the table, and she was getting really antsy. She was given what's called the wiggle feet. And the wiggle feet is a silent, bouncy, cushiony device that goes on the floor. And you can bounce your feet and wiggle your feet and move your feet all around silently without disrupting the class, without getting in trouble. Because of the teachers in here, some of you have been around children, you know that children, if they are feeling anxious or if they're feeling like they need to expend some energy, those feet begin to move. They begin to kick things and move the table, and then they're getting in trouble. Then the teacher's telling them to stop. And then you're taking time away from teaching, they're taking time away from the academic piece, they're taking time away from everything. So by having a way for them to feel that hug, to have their feet move and be able to get out some of that extra energy is a really great way to make sure that we set the stage for the intervention. The other student, if you want to just show them what you have there, has what's called the fidget toy. So we have all of these boxes of fidget toys. And there's probably 50 or some odd different items inside the box. And again, those are things that are silent, that keep the hands busy. Again, oftentimes children get in trouble or can't focus because they have a lot of extra energy. They're not paying attention. They want to move their hands. They want to touch things. They want to pick up things and look at things. This is an opportunity to give them something small that they choose on their own, and they're able to, and if you want to just show a few more items that are in the box, you want to put them on display, there's a great variety. So she chose the soccer ball, but there are all sorts of things, all sorts of colors that will be attractive to children in a different way, and it's a way for them to, as they sit at their desk throughout the day, they can fidget and get rid of some of that energy without doing things that gets them in trouble, without getting up and grabbing papers that they're not supposed to grab, without getting up and grabbing pencils that they're not supposed to touch. They're able to fidget in a way that is going to allow them to increase attention, increase focus, increase time in seat. So this is just setting the stage. It's preparing them to have an effective intervention. And so we're going to now, oh, you wanted to keep showing things. It's a great box. Afterwards, you can definitely come look at some of these items. They're really great. What we're going to do now is we're going to have, so these are our two students for the day, actresses, and then these are our two teachers, and they are going to demonstrate sort of what two elements of the intervention would look like. So I'm going to ask the group with the dry erase board to go first, and if the other child can just come out the scene. You can come out the way.
All right, good morning, Sharika. How are we feeling today?
Good morning, Miss. I'm good.
All right, Sharika, we're going to work on some writing today. We're going to work on our letter A. What letter we're going to work on today?
Letter A.
All right, so we're going to write the uppercase A and the lowercase a. Can you find the uppercase A for me, please? Touch it. Try again. Look for the uppercase A. Nice. That is the uppercase A. So you're going to try and write it today. So take up the marker. Now you're going to start from the red line. And you're going to draw a little slant. Almost there. Try again. Rub that out. We're going to start from the red line. You see the red line? Nice. And then bring it down a little. Good girl. All right. Can you repeat it on the other side for me? Wow. Yay. All right, one more step left now. Go across. Just go right across. Yay! Go, Sharika. That is what again?
Uppercase A.
Nice. So now we're going to do the lowercase. Now we're going to do the lowercase a. Can you show me the lowercase a? Very good. So now for the lowercase a, look at me. We're going to do circle and a small stick. Very good. Come again.
Circle and a small stick.
All right, so let's see you try it. Ooh, that's a nice circle, but I don't want it all the way up there. I want it right beside my A. Right. Wow, nice. Now you're going to put on the small stick. Nice. That's a very good stick, but I want it on the other side. Can you do it on the other side for me? Let's start over. So go again, circle and a small stick. Over and nice. Yay! Very good, Sharika. High five.
All right, a round of applause for our actresses, right? So now I just want to take a quick step back and explain what was happening and what was going on. So of course there was a lot of positive reinforcement, but one of the things that we want to make sure, and this is sort of taking from best practices in ABA, is that children don't fail. They get the support that they need to get to a correct answer. And what that support looks like may vary depending on the task. So in the first task, the student was attempting to draw the uppercase A, and she was having a little bit of trouble. And the teacher used a prompting strategy. Prompting strategy is the idea that you're giving some support, and she used what's called a verbal prompt. A verbal prompt. She gave her verbal instructions on what she needed to do to help her complete the task. That's a low-level prompt. It's not a really high-level prompt. It's very basic, a verbal prompt. She was able to get success. She got positive reinforcement. On the second task, she was having a little bit more trouble. So she gave her the verbal prompt, and it didn't work. So she then had to give her a gestural prompt, where she was sort of gesturing what she needed to do. The gestural prompt was able to work. If that didn't work, she would have then moved to the next level of prompt, which is the physical prompt, where she actually took her hand and helped her get to the correct answer. And then she would get positive reinforcement. So the idea is that we want to make sure that we're using prompting strategies and the same strategies with all of the children, ensuring that they get success, that they get to correct answers, and that they're getting the support that they need to get there. And so this is something that will occur as they're working on various components of the intervention, this idea of prompting and ensuring that we're following this strict prompting structure, going from least to most prompting, from a verbal prompt to a gestural prompt to a physical prompt. One small component of this thing. And so that was just demonstrated there. So I'll have the other group come out, and they'll demonstrate something a little bit different.
Okay, Nadinola. So this morning, we're going to learn about our alphabet and the sounds that they make. We're going to learn about the word family. All right? So this morning, we're going to look at the word family, at. All right? Here we have some letters. Let's say the letters, the name of the letters. Let's go. Letter is? This the letter is? Okay, well done.
C,
Mm-hmm.
B,
Yes.
S,
Yes.
F.
Very good. Well done. Very good. Well done. All right. Then now these letters have some soft sounds, right? So you're going to tell me the letter sound based on previous lesson. Tell me what sound the letters make. The R make. R. All right. The C make. The R C. K, k, k. Very good. The letter B make. B, b, b. And the letter C make. Letter C make, letter S make, and letter F make. Sorry. All right, let's go. All right, so we're going to learn a song today with the word family, at. All right? Okay? Ready now, Nadinola? Let's go. All right. So, Ready now? All right, after 2, 1, 2. The letter R says, and what we have? Rat. All right, let's go again. Let's start over, Naninola. All right. All right. The letter R says R, and what we have? Rat. The letter C says K, and what we have? Cat. The letter B says B, and what we have? Bat. The letter S says, and what we have? Sat. The letter F says, and what we have? Fat. Well done, Nadinola. So there we have learned our word family, at. Very good. Give me an high five. Great.
Thank you so much. And so just to give you a brief explanation about what was happening there, every child will be at a different starting point. So we have this sample here where that particular child would have been at that point to do that task. There are children who would not be there, who are still learning to identify letters. And so we would use similar strategies, just working on learning what the letters are. But there are several key components that are built into what you saw there that are going to be a major part of the intervention. One of them is the music component and the singing. What research has shown is that oftentimes children with intellectual disabilities have trouble learning in a traditional way. But when you add song or when you add dance, it gives them a different pathway to get the same information into their brain. The idea that we're using a different pathway, we're using song and dance. Children with intellectual disabilities, for the most part, really love to engage in singing and dancing. And that's often a pathway that's not used enough in supporting them in learning. We say, okay, they like to sing, so we'll give them a break and let them sing. Or we'll teach them this song and let them sing. But it's not weaved into instruction. It's not weaved into teaching critical components of what's necessary in the curriculum, in this case, literacy. And so we'll be using that pathway of song and dance to help build on their pathways and use different ways to get into their brain that are not the traditional way. So the singing and the dance, very important components. Again, children are not failing, right? Children are successful in getting that positive feedback, because oftentimes what happens when a task is hard or if a child is unable to complete a task, they don't get any positive feedback. And it then becomes frustrating. And like you and me, of course, if I'm not getting positive feedback about something, I get discouraged. I may try something. My wife wanted me to build something. I was not having great success. She was not giving me positive reinforcement. And eventually I said, you know what? We're going to call somebody to build this, right? But the positive reinforcement keeps you going. So even though they may struggle, being able to get to the end using positive reinforcement and using prompting will really help drive them to want to keep engaging, no matter how hard the task is. And then given the additional supports, the fidget toys, the wiggly feet, the weighted vest, and additional items that we have that are on display over there, they really have the space and the place to function at a level that's going to get them to progress at what we believe is going to be a much faster pace. And that's a very small snippet of what this whole thing looks like. But we wanted to give you some sort of visual, tangible piece. And so you ladies can have a seat. Give them a round of applause. The last thing that I want to do before I leave is just show a short video. And I'm not going to show too much of the video, but I did want to give you a sense of what the technology piece looks like and speak to what that will look like, how that will work, and how it's connected to the children, not only just at school, but also when they return home. Them get off of the app. We're in the parents' corner right now, which is also the parent-teachers' corner. The parents and teachers have access to all of this stuff. They have access to what their achievement score is, what their success rate is, how many games they've completed, and it shows you all of the different games that are available on the app. And so we have assigned a certain set of games for each group. Each group will be participating in different games. So you can sort of see here in this mock-up that we did that there were 5 puzzle solved for a particular child, 100%, and this is the levels that they did. They're up to 50 levels. So all of these different games have multiple levels that get harder and harder as you progress. Parents and teachers have the ability to change the level. We're able to get feedback. So we assign the beginning level. But if the level is too hard and we get the feedback from the teacher or parent that it's too hard, we can then instruct them on what to put the level at to change the level. Now, a wide array of games, including language games, outline games, patches, math games, all sorts of games. These are things that they need to be introduced to the child, but once the child gets familiar with it, they'll be able to do this on their own much of the time. They'll be able to have it independently and progress through, and the app will measure the data and collect data all by itself, so no one has to go and check, are they getting this right? Did they do this correctly? It does it by itself. The settings can be changed. They're automatically set, though that it will increase the difficulty as a child shows that they can do a task. So as a child shows repeatedly that they can complete a task, they'll be able to progress, and it automatically progresses them to the next level. If a child is repeatedly failing at a task, it will move them back and drop the level, so it's something that they're able to complete with success. So what's going to pop up now, and this is just sort of a visual of what it looks like, and the child would tap on the game, and it's going to show you sort of what a game would look like. And again, once they start the game, the parent has to be there to solve 4 times 4, whatever the multiplication item is there for. This is a tour for parents. So parents and teachers have the ability to tour the app on their own. They can go into the settings and see exactly what's being done. So for example, this tour, if a parent or teacher were to click the tour for matching or identifying animals, they would go to this screen and it would give them a sample of what an easy task looks like, what some of the moderate level tasks look like, and then level 136 out of 140 means that the child has progressed through 135 levels and they're becoming really advanced. They would start off at level 1, right?
Cat.
So for example, they would be told to identify the cat and drag the cat to the hand. And so they would
Take
go
the
through
elephant
repeatedly
to
and do that.
the monkey.
As they progress, this is
Take
now level
the
72.
elephant to
It's
the
saying
monkey.
take the elephant to the monkey.
Take the
so they're now
elephant
not
to
only
the
identifying
monkey.
the animal, they now have to take the elephant to the monkey, demonstrating
Take
that they have
the
even
car
more language
to the
development.
giraffe.
Same thing, this is level 80. Again, we started on level 1 with simply identifying the animal, dragging it over. They have to show that they're able to identify different animals and complete the task. It gets more and more difficult. There are some children that their baseline is going to allow them to start in the middle. They may start at level 72
Take
and
the
progress
book to
to
the crocodile.
this, where they're getting more options. It's a more complex task because there are multiple options, and they were told to grab the book and take it
the
to
leopard
alligator.
to the crocodile.
And this is level 136. And so as you progress, you move forward. If they get to level 140, because there are some children, there are a few students who are in this particular area a little bit more advanced, they would then move on to a higher level activity to sort of keep pushing them forward. And so what we went through is just an example of what the parents can do, just so they can familiarize themselves with what it looks
Match
like
the
for teachers
shapes.
as well. This is again just sort of a matching level 1 item where they're just matching the shape. They're dragging the shaped animal over here. The sound isn't too
You
loud
are
on the laptop, but
impressive.
what would happen is they're getting a lot of positive feedback every time they get a correct answer. They're getting bells and whistles, and great job, good job, wonderful, all of that great feedback that they need as they
Great
progress
thinking.
through this. You can go ahead and stop the video. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to do too much more on the video, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what that will look like. And so just to reiterate, the goal of these apps is the idea that they're able to get the repetition, right? Without a teacher or instructor having to sit there and constantly say, do this again, do this again, do this again. they're able to do it on the app on their own. They get lots of positive reinforcement. The app controls the difficulty, and as they show what they can do, they're progressed to higher and higher levels, which is really great. The app captures the data, which is wonderful, and we can look at the data at any time. So on any given day, a teacher or a parent or one of us can access the data because it's also emailed out to the email that's attached to the account for the child. So it's something that we'll be able to see from afar, and we may see something in the data that suggests that we need to make a change, and we can get that into the feedback loop and get the change to take place. And it also allows us to monitor what's going on, making sure the children are progressing in the way that they're supposed to. There are a lot of things going on with this intervention, but it's really rich, and it's addressing things from multiple angles in a way that no other intervention has done. So we're really excited about this, and we're rolling it out. We had our first group of teachers come and get trained, and we're going to continue training, continue supporting teachers, as well as the parents and the families as we progress. And I think this is going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal intervention for the children here in Jamaica and beyond. And as I mentioned to the teachers yesterday, this project is so important because we're sort of at the ground level of something new and something novel. And when we show how effective it can be, it's going to take off and be replicated over and over again in different places and different spaces. So we're really excited, grateful for the opportunity to work here on the island of Jamaica, and very appreciative to everyone who's made this happen thus far. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ken Hoyt. I don't know about you this morning, but I am pretty excited about these approaches, these innovative approaches. I'm going to take myself out of the way, and we're going to go into another segment where I'd like to specially invite Dr. Ricardo, as well as Miss Oshima. Yes. As we proceed with the handover of resources, we're going to hand over some resources to our principals from the two schools, Randolph Lopez, that will be Mrs. Silvera, as well as Mrs. Johnstone from the Windsor School of Special Education. And I will invite Cordia, who will organize in terms of who gets what, and the rest of the proceedings for the handover of resources. Thank you. Yes, can come.
So before they come, I just want to say that we will be handing over the tablets to the principals and parents. But the principals will be getting a resource kit. The resource kit will include everything you see on the table and more, okay? I'm showing you this tablet here. So the kids will be getting a tablet, and it's fully protected. So it's in a very, strong protective case, has a very strong protective screen, and it has different ways in which it can be held. This is a Samsung Galaxy A8, and we've had added additional space to it, and we will ensure that all the schools have connectivity, because we want to ensure that the teachers have all the resources they need to get this project going. So I'll invite Mrs. Silvero and Johnstone. We'd like to invite Mrs. Gordon and Miss Gordon.
And at this time, I'm going to invite Mr. Kawasaki, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, Kawasaki, who will do the handover for that. Thank you.
Wow. And as Dr. Hoyt rightly mentioned, each child will be presented. So we have loaded not just the app that Dr. Hoyt showed, but we have several apps on this. It's an Android device. So the apps are here. Each child in the program will receive a tablet. We have Mr. Thompson at the back. He's our IT consultant. He was integral in helping us, configuring the tablets. Each child, each teacher, and each parent mentor will have the device, and we'll be able to track the devices to ensure that the devices are in the right place. And we encourage the parents to play around with it so you can help your children, and we'll be monitoring each step of the way. All right, so I'll hand over back to our moderator.
Thank you, Mrs. Chambers. I am so happy. And at this time, we have come to almost the end of today's event, and I'm going to take myself out away and invite our Executive Director, Mrs. Marilyn McCoy, who will bring vote of thanks. Thank you.
I am excited. Are you excited? I am truly grateful for this opportunity. We thank God for taking us to this point in the implementation of this project. And when we were going through COVID-19 pandemic, and we said to ourselves, Lord, you mean it's not going to happen? No. Now we have a day like today, and we are truly grateful. It is my privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to express thanks to every single person in this room for coming and for participating in today's event. I want to thank the project team, however, for the behind-the-scenes work that they have done. It has been a long journey. Just sourcing these resources was so difficult because many of the resources are not here in Jamaica. And we had to be navigating the international space to be able to get the resources that we truly need. On behalf of JADE, I extend a hearty thanks to all our special guests this morning. To Dr. Reed for setting the stage. And I know Dr. Reed, our president, has been really, really concerned about the pace of this project. And today we are happy. We are happy with the fact that we are at this point and we are about to launch or go into the actual implementation. To Ms. Noriko Oshima from the Embassy of Japan, and Mr. Ricardo Perez Suevas from the Inter-American Development Bank, thank you for your encouraging words and for your best wishes re the implementation of this intervention. To Dr. Hoyt and his team, Dr. Wright, Dr. Meredith, Thank you so very much. We have had a really strong relationship with this team. We have walked the journey with them. They have heard our cries. They have heard our concerns. And what I liked about the team was that they listened. And here we are today, ready to move into a very innovative intervention. To our parents, I know our parents are excited. They kept talking to our project coordinator, when is it going to begin? When are we going to actually begin the intervention? And here we are. So our parents are excited. We have kept the communication going with our parents in our WhatsApp group. And here we are as well, working with the teachers. So we are truly poised for the start of this intervention. Today is very special to all of us. We have in our midst, yes, the minister was not able to be here, but we have in our midst our Deputy Director, Assistant Chief Education Officer in the Special Education Unit. And she will be working integrally with this project. She will be walking, she'll be monitoring, she'll be understanding exactly what is happening in our schools. So she will be having a hands-on approach with the implementation of this project. Thank you so very much for coming, Ms. Gale. As we leave here today, I wish you well. I want to really thank also our moderator for setting the pace. I want to thank our donors, the Japanese government. I want to thank the IDB Bank. And let me tell you, the IDB, and I said that to Dr. Ricardo Perez Sueva this morning, that the IDB Bank has truly kept us focused and on track. They have been providing the guidance for a successful implementation. The IDB is not just an administrator, but they have also introduce capacity building initiatives to the JADE team so that we know what we're doing and that the project will be a success. Please extend our best wishes to the management of the IDB and our thanks. To everyone here in the room, the children, the parents, thank you for coming and I wish you well.
Thank you, Mrs. Marilyn McCoy. And now that we are at the end of today's event, I would like to invite you to the back of the room where we have some refreshment. Please help yourself and please do have something. Thank you.